Salah, yeah? So please come and join us. We're going to start. Abbas Bhai is going to show us some exercise so we can get our breathing properly. And then we can eat more lunch.
Usually, breathing is very important. Usually, breathing is most important for us. Without breathing, our body cannot withstand the activities of the day. So we start with breathing. So we just breathe in with one nose up, and then we release it with the other one. 3 times only. Now we take breathing inside.
Sounds like I'm snoring, you know, the way it's doing
Yeah.
it.
Now we are taking the breathing and hold it, and then we release it slowly. Like deep breathing. Like three times only. Right? Now we breathe in, breathe from and take out from the nose, breathe from the mouth. Now we breathe from the nose 3 times, take it out from the mouth. Now I'm doing our friend Ahmad Dungar's breathing style to take out toxin out.
You don't breathe from your ears?
If you can, you do. Yeah, you can. Yeah. Yeah. I'm doing 3 times. Now we are to do a bit of exercise. You have to first to release your arms and everything very, as we have done in the yesterday, just like that. We loosen completely. Now we are going this way. Now we are checking. Breathe. Now catch your 2 hands like that. Then we release it and go round a bit like that. Those who can sit, sit. You can stand. We are going up to the touch the feet if you can, slowly. There is no liability and no insurance here. It is on your own liability. Bigger. When you come up, just hold tight, and as if you want to straighten yourself. When you wake up, you need to. So you have to just do like. as much as you can. It's not necessary you must do 100% or anything. According, your body will tell you what is your limit. Is there time more?
Yeah.
It's okay?
Yeah. Okay, thank
Okay,
you.
alhamdulillah.
Thank you very
This
much. I think Abbas is going to have problem with his wife if he snores like that at home. He's got a problem, right? Please welcome. Oh, first of all, let's Assalamu alaikum for everyone. Please let's say Fatiha for all the mahramin. Al-Fatiha. I've got an announcement to make, which I will do after Maqbool Bhai has recited his Quran, because there'll be more people here. It's to do with the transport to the new Haifri Center. The Jamaat has organized for us seniors on a Sunday to go there. So if everybody who wants to go, please give me your names and I'll give it to the President so that it will be specific for our seniors. And also I'm going to, when I see the President or bring him up, to say if there is a minibus available which can take up to 14 people. So those people who want to come here and go by our transport here, then we can arrange. But that is not for sure until I get permission from the President.
So you make this announcement after Maqbool finishes his Quran.
I'll make this another, because there'll be more people here. Yeah, I want everybody to. I think it's either this Sunday they've got a program there. Oh, but we'll try and do it before then. Yeah? Maqbool Bhai, please.
So it is this Sunday?
No, I will let Azad Bhai will send on WhatsApp, let people know. And maybe I'll get them to send email as well, yeah? Please. You want to sit there? If you sit there, then I can sit there.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, if you don't mind.
محمد وآل محمد صلوات الله وسلم. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بفضل بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. تبارك الذي نزل الفرقان على عبده ليكون للعالمين نذيرا. الذي له ملك السماوات والأرض ولم يتخذ ولدا ولم يكن له شريك في الملك وخلق كل شيء فقدره تقديرا. واتخذوا من دونه آلهة لا يخلقون شيئا وهم يخلقون ولا يملكون لأنفسهم ضرا ولا نفعا ولا يملكون موتا ولا حياة ولا نشورا. وقال الذين كفروا إن هذا إلا إفك وقال الذين كفروا إن هذا إلا إفك افتراه وعانه عليه قوم آخرون فقد جاءوا ظلما وزورا. وقالوا أساطير الأولين اكتتبها فهي تملى عليه بكرة وأصيلا. قل أنزله الذي يعلم السر في السماوات والأرض إنه كان غفورا رحيما وقالوا ما لهذا الرسول يأكل الطعام ويمشي في الأسواق لولا أنزل إليه ملك فيكون معه نذيرا أو يلقى إليه كنز أو تكون له جنة يأكل منها وقال الظالمون إن تتبعون إلا رجلا مسحورا انظر كيف ضربوا لك الأمثال فضلوا فلا يستطيعون سبيلا تبارك الذي إن شاء جعل لك خيرا من ذلك جنات تجري من تحتها الأنهار ويجعل لك قصورا صدق الله العلي العظيم. This is Surah number 25, Al-Furqan from the Holy Quran. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Blessed is he who sent down the Furqan upon his servant that he may be a warner to the nations. He whose is the kingdom of the heavens and the earth, and who did not take to himself a son, and who has no associate in the kingdom, and who created everything, then ordained for it a measure. And they have taken besides him gods, who do not create anything, while they are themselves created, and they control not for themselves any harm or profit, and they control not death nor life, nor raising the dead to life. And those who do disbelieve say, there is nothing but a lie which he has forged, and other people have helped him at it. So indeed they have done injustice and uttered a falsehood. And they say the stories of the ancients, he has got them written, so these are read out to him morning and evening. Say, he has revealed it who knows the secret in the heavens and the earth. Surely he is ever forgiving, merciful. And they say, what is the matter with this apostle, that he eats food and goes about in the markets? Why has not an angel been sent down to him, so that he should have been a warner with him? Or why is it not a treasure sent down to him, or he is made to have a garden from which he should eat? And the unjust say, you do not follow any but a man deprived of reason. See what likeness do they apply to you, so they have gone astray, therefore they shall not be able to find a way. Blessed is he who, if he pleases, will give you what is better than this, gardens beneath which rivers flow, and he will give you palaces. Sadaqallahu al-aliyyul azim. Okay.
Just repeat the announcement I made early on about the trip to Hereford. The Jamaat is going to organize a special senior citizen day for us to go on a Sunday to go around the Hereford. So people can go by themselves, or I'll try and arrange some sort of a transport from here to Hereford. I'd like to know the more details by sending you what's up with Azad Dala. I'm not quite sure which Sunday yet, but I'll try and get it all sorted out. No, it will be in the morning. It will be about half past 10 to half past 10, and there will be no lunch either. Okay, so Hussein here has volunteered to bring some snacks for us if he comes. Please welcome. Oh, sorry. have it on 29th of, yeah, by all means, yeah, go. Please welcome Brother Malim Makbul for our guest speaker there, please.
That's right. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. It's a beautiful day, very sunny, warm temperatures. Alhamdulillah, the right time to meet together with our friends and seniors and our usual companions in this very useful and very important discussions that we'll be having. I'm very happy to be here with you. Alhamdulillah. So, so if I may start again. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان اللعين الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم. حسبنا الله ونعم الوكيل. نعم المولى ونعم النصير. الحمد لله رب العالمين. الصلاة والسلام على خير خلقه ونور عرشه. أفضل الأنبياء والمرسلين. خاتم النبيين بالقاسم محمد. وعترته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين. أما بعد، فقد قال الله سبحانه وتعالى في كتاب المجيد والفرقان الحميد. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. قد جاءكم من الله نور وكتاب مبين يهدي به الله من اتبع رضوانه سبل السلام ويخرجهم من الظلمات إلى النور بإذنه ويهديهم إلى صراط مستقيم. صدق الله العلي العظيم. اللهم صل على محمد. The ayah that I've quoted is from Surah Ma'idah, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us, indeed there has come to you from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala a light and a manifesting book, whereby Allah guides him who follows His pleasure, Allah's pleasure, onto the ways of peace, subul as-salam, and takes them out of darkness into light by His will. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala takes us out of darkness into light and guides them to the straight path. So this is a beautiful ayah which talks about the Holy Quran. And it is so refreshing and so enheartening and so nice to get this atmosphere within our senior organization, within our community, that after the month of Ramadan, we have had this sudden, and before that even, there has been a surge of interest in the Holy Quran. And there has been a discussion, there are all kinds of tafsir, reflection, classes, online meetings being held, and it is something that's it's something that's indicative that we have indeed we are trying to follow inni tarikum fikum mustaqalain kitab Allah itrati ahle bayti. So that hadith of the Holy Prophet, we are trying to follow that indeed this kitab Allah is very important to us, together with Ahl al-Bayt alayhimus salam. So coming from that, in today's lecture, I want to kind of talk specifically about a very specific topic, and that is to do with the way in which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala expresses the style, the language of the Holy Quran. And I think it's very important, because we are very concerned, and I think we should be rightfully concerned about how we read Quran, that we read it accurately, properly, that we know how to read it in a way that it should be read. That is something that's very important, but of course, reading is just the initial baby step. that you can say that, we should be totally assured in our whole community that if we call anyone from the floor and say, okay, can I give you a piece of a page in the Holy Quran and you read it? And that we should be able to get a response that, yes, I will read it, alhamdulillah, I know how to read it. And not a response saying, oh, I don't have practice, or I haven't really read for a while, so, or even a very blunt and a bland statement that I do not know how to read Quran, and that is really a total different extreme of the spectrum. One would not expect that in our communities where we teach our children how to read Quran from the very, very young age. And so it is clearly quite an extreme kind of situation that we should not be finding. But also we should also not be finding a situation where people feel hesitant. When they are told read Quran, they feel hesitant. In the holy month of Ramadan, we read Quran every day. We did khitmah of the Holy Quran. We also read Quran individually, to ourselves. We read it in a darsa. So it is very important that reading Quran is something that becomes a familiar activity, an activity that we are comfortable with, that we are not hesitant about, that we are not scared of, that we are really quite comfortable with reading any page of the Holy Quran from any place in the Holy Quran, because this is what we are doing every day. That we are doing this, we did this in our childhood. We used to go to this, the lady teachers and the gents teachers, muallims and all that, and learn how to do this, and all the way, but we continue this. So that is an important factor to bear in mind, that, reading is very important. But then there is one other thing which is really, really important, is to understand. So when you read the Holy Quran in Arabic, and we do not understand what we are reading, we are denying ourselves a very huge advantage of being able of the blessing of the message of the Holy Quran, and that Allah wants to talk to us, but we are putting a kind of a hijab, a kind of an obstacle, a barrier, by us not understanding the language. So of course there are ways in which people deal with this. People try to learn Arabic, which you can do. You can spend your entire lifetime reading Arabic and learning Arabic, and there is no time to say, oh, I'm old now, I'm 50, I'm 60, I'm 70, I can't learn how to understand Arabic, or I can't learn the language. You can, of course, learn the language at whatever age you want to learn, provided you have that enthusiasm and you have this feeling that, look, I want to learn this language, because a language is a language, just like English language, Spanish language, French language. It's a language, and you can learn the language. So it shouldn't be very difficult. So it is something that but that is one way of thinking. Some people say, oh, I need to learn the language, but that becomes like, oh, it's a long-term thing. I don't know, I can't do it immediately. So then you say, okay, I will look at translations. And there are so many translations of the Holy Quran. And they are not one translation, they are varied translations. So you can look at translations, you can look at Shaqir, you can look at Mir Ahmad Ali, the translation together with the thing, and there are many. So you can actually look at different translations, compare them. And, Oni Khalfan had an organization who distributed from New York lots of Quran, and he compared the translations as well. So you can do that. So it is important that we actually understand. You see the beautiful statements that were read out by Agha Maqbul Jafar just now. Beautiful statements about Tawheed. It is amazing, and about the statements in Surah Furqan about those people who say, what kind of a person has Allah sent, or a prophet Allah has sent? He eats, he goes to the souk, he goes to the shops, and he does things like us. He's like us. Why doesn't he send an angel? Why doesn't he send someone miraculous, Okay, that are the kind. So we come to appreciate the language when we know the translation, and of course he Agha read out the translation as well, so we came to know the translation. But then one step forward from there, not only we know the translation, but we also try to reflect on it. And one of the things that I've noticed, which is, I'm not here, but I come online and listen to it, is Agha Musaddiq does a lot of tafsir, lot of reflection. And he takes a small surah, he talks about it, and he actually tries to explain various views, which are good. Because you know what? It's something that makes you think. It is something that he is relating to you about the tafsir of the Quran, and it makes you think and say, okay, there are so many things it makes me realize and makes me think, so you develop your thinking you develop a Quranic thinking along those lines. And then there is the next step after that, the reflection, understanding, and then there is implementation. Now, of course, the implementation, people say, what? I mean, that's where they actually stop. They say, okay, when I read the Quran, I will try to understand, I enjoy the language, the beauty of the Holy Quran, the rhythm and the maqam and the tune of the Holy Quran, and I will really, really immerse myself into it. But that step, that quantum leap, to say, okay, this ayah of the Quran is talking about ghiba, right? Ghiba. Would you like to eat the meat of your brother, of the corpse of your brother? Now, immediately there is now an actual intellectual exercise within you. Am I doing this? Do I do this? Do I talk of ghiba? Do I talk of other people? Do I ridicule other people? Do I, in Surah Hujurat, don't ridicule, don't nickname. Do I do such things? How do I deal with my friends, my community members? How do I talk to them? How do I respect them? How do I give them dignity? How do I relate to them, just like my family members? How do I do that? That is, you start asking yourself, the implementation of the Holy Quran is because Allah's book is a guidance. So it's not like a novel, it's not like something that you enjoy at an intellectual level, but it's something very practical. And because it is very practical, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that Allah is guiding it through Nur and Kitabun Mubin. Those people who follow the guidance, the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, who want the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, who seeking the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah is guiding them, those people, to Subul as-Salam, to the ways of Salam. And Salam is not only what we say, Assalamu alaikum, but it is huge peace. Salamun qawlan min Rabbir Rahim in Jannah. We are in peace. We are in total tranquility. We are in total happiness. We are in total state of fulfillment. And that is Salam. He guides us to the place, to the ways of Salam. And then he says he takes them out of darkness into light and guides them to the straight path. So you can see how many different ways in which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has explained how Quran is the way in which, is the channel, is the wasila through which Allah is giving us guidance. And this guidance, if you look at it in terms of both, from the reading all the way to implementation, we see how we can do it. So now, that was by way of introduction to the topic that I was going to talk about. So the topic I want to talk about is the articulation of the Quranic style of articulation, the language of the Holy Quran. So now we have a very, very nice book by Ayatollah Jawadi Amoli. He has written a book on Quran Dar Quran. Okay? This is in Farsi, but it's now been translated in English. It was made available in Vancouver, it is published, and now I think it's also available in our bookshop. And Ayatollah Jawadi Amoli is taking us into a journey into the Holy Quran, in various aspects of the Holy Quran. And he's he's a thinker of today's age. He's a thinker who knows, who is able to express himself in the languages that will be clear to people in today's age, in 21st century. So Ayatollah Jawad Amili has explained, has looked at this issue of the articulative qualities of the Holy Quran. So now when you read a book, what do you do when you read a book? When you take a book that you don't know about, you will look at the contents, you look at the author, you look who is the author, what he's all about, background of the author. So you try to find out about the author, the way he thinks, what is his ideas, even before you get into the book. And you start thinking about, so this is normally the way in which, in an intellectual way, at the university level, we take a book, a textbook, and start looking author, what are his ideas, what is the contents, what is he talking about, and then look at the conclusions. So, we don't actually, as people might not know, we don't actually look at the book from cover to cover. We don't. Because it is not possible to look at every book from cover to cover. If you spend your life looking at a book that you get from cover to cover, say I start from page 1 and I go to page conclusion, you will find it difficult. But what you are advised to do when you are studying is that you look into specific sections of the book from the contents, and then you say then, oh well, what do I understand from this? And how do I understand? And then you can look at the conclusion, because this is not a novel that you say, I don't want to look at the conclusion first. This is not a roman. This is actually a book of study. So you say, okay, what is concluding? What is he saying? What is he coming out of? What are his conclusions? Where is he ending up? So you want to know where he's ending up. What is he? What are he thinking? What is he thinking? What is his background? Where is he coming from, etc. So you get an idea of how to read a book. So if you have this style of reading a book, take any book, go to the library, and I would recommend that we focus on religious books, because we have got so many things, so many books which we have never been able to read, and probably will never be able to read in our lifetime, because our lifetimes are short and the books are so many. You go to Islamic College Library, go and see how many books there are, and you see amazing. I go to my university, Middlesex University, see how many books there are on Islam. Huge. So it is like you can't read book cover to cover. You read it methodically, mawdui, thematically. You read it from the point of view of understanding the book, so that when you have spent a couple of hours on that book, you know generally about the book. You don't know the details, but now you know generally about the book. So you now know what this book, they take a seerah, the biographies of the Holy Prophet, and then you see, okay, you find this is the same way it's done. This Arastu, Sheikh Arastu has written a book on divine emissaries. You find out more about him, what is his intention, what was his purpose in writing the book, how is he writing, what cross-references is he giving, so that you are able to utilize the book to its fullest extent. So articulation is very important, and Ayatollah Jawadu Amali has identified a few qualities of the Holy Quran. So now, why did I go into this long explanation? Because I do believe personally that, people are doing tartibi. Tartibi is tafsir tartibi, or even translation tartibi, not even tafsir tartibi. You see, I want to go from this surah, first ayah, to the end. Okay, fine. That is a way. It is a possible way of doing it. You can take a surah, إِذَا زُلْزِلَتِ الْأَرْضُ زِلْزَالَهَا, and then talk about that surah. Fine. You can do that. You can do Surah Baqarah, and you can do that. Look at from ayah, and you can do it contextually. You can say, okay, what are the historical circumstances in which, Shan and Nuzul? What are the things in which the ayah were actually revealed? And, you try to get an understanding. But we also know that when the ayah were revealed, they were not only revealed for that time, they were revealed for eternity. So you see, only knowing the context is okay, but you have to extrapolate now from the context to where we are now, and how does it apply to us now, so that, because this Quran is for eternity, it is forever until the day of Qiyamah. So it is something that we must be able to utilize, and not see in historical lens only. We cannot put ourselves in the historical frame and say, okay, this was to do with Badr, and this is to do with Uhud, and this is to do with this circumstance, and this. Fine. it gives you an indication of shane nuzul, the circumstance of the nuzul, but it will not give you an indication of what are the various possible ways in which you can understand this Quran, for eternity. So, one thing that he identifies is that the Holy Quran is utilizing the simple delivery. It's a very simple delivery. And it is a very complex delivery. It's both simple and complex. It is profound. So, how do you make a book? How do you create a book in which a person who is at a very low level of intelligence and understanding can understand the book, can understand the message, as well as a person who is of a very high intellectual caliber and is able to think at a very high level? So the Holy Quran is addressing both levels, all the levels. And therefore we have said that there are several layers of meanings in the Holy Quran. There's so many layers, in the Holy Quran. So we can, it is not only one. If we understand one meaning, it doesn't mean this is the only meaning. It means I understood that meaning. But it doesn't mean that these are the only meanings. So therefore you look at the hadith and you look at everything else and you start getting a bigger and bigger and bigger picture. So it is both simple and is profound. So now Allah and then so the other thing is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala uses amsal. So there are a lot of examples that are used. Masal and amsal are used in the Holy Quran to make clear. So, for example, if you take the ayah of the Holy Quran, which is وعنده مفاتيح الغيب لا يعلمها إلا هو ويعلم ما في البر والبحر وما تسقط من ورقة إلا يعلمها ولا حبة ولا رطب ولا بائس إلا في كتاب مبين. We recite this ayah in Namaz Ghufela, right? We recite this. Second rakat, we recite this. وعنده مفاتيح الغيب لا يعلمها إلا هو ويعلم ما في البر والبحر وما تسقط من ورقة إلا يعلمها ولا حبة في ظلمات الأرض ولا رطب ولا يابس إلا في كتاب مبين. So Ayatul Jawadi Amil is now explaining to us through the example of this ayah, how does Allah give the profound meaning as well as the simple meaning? How does it give the simple delivery as for the very intellectually lower down category people and intellectually high? And of course everyone is developing. So everyone is at a low level and is developing slowly. So it's not something derogatory, but it's simply describing your own state of intellectualization. Okay, so in this ayah, the phrase used is the keys of the unseen. Mafatihul ghaib. Mafatihul ghaib. Mafatihul ghaib. Keys of the unseen. Now when someone is irfani, when someone is thinking very deeply, keys of the unseen. He's now going all over. Now he's immersed in the unseen. What is the ghaib that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is talking about? How do I understand the ghaib? Because Allah is the creator. He is the creator of time. He knows everything. There's nothing ghaib. To him, his is the keys. For us, it may be ghaib. One way in which I remember in one of the classes where I had attended, we had one of the very prominent scholars who was trying to explain ghaib to us. He said, ghaib to us and ghaib to Allah. So he said, if you take this table, what is present you can see. What is past you know. What is future you don't know. Right? So for us, ghaib is something we don't know. There's something that's going to take place. But we know the past and we know the present because we can see it. So he's explaining it. That look, for Allah it is like a flat. He can see everything. He knows all this. For us, it's not flat. It's like behind the mountain or behind the shield or behind the obstacle. Okay. So he says that this particular explanation that he gives, which is very good, he said, look, how does Allah, and this is in Surah Al-An'am, how does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala explain the keys of the unseen? No one knows them except him. No one knows. So then Allah is explaining the keys of the unseen in very simple terms, in terms that we can all understand, can relate to at material level. So he says, he knows whatever there is in the land and in the sea, and no leaf falls without his knowing. Now, when you think about it, you look at the environment and see how many leaves are falling. How many leaves are falling? No leaf can fall without Allah knowing. So you can see the extent to which we now understand what this means. Allah, we have a glimpse. We get a glimpse, we have an indication of what Allah is telling us in a very simple level. And there is another, so we have, that is a good example that he has given. And then we have the ayah in Surah Ankabut, which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَتِلْكَ الْأَمْثَالُ نَضْرِبُهَا لِلنَّاسِ وَمَا يَعْقِلُهَا إِلَّا الْعَالِمُونَ. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying that we make parables, examples, similitudes for people. So these are for mankind, so that they understand. They can understand the parables. The parables are very important. And Allah then says also, وَمَا يَعْقِلُهَا إِلَّا الْعَالِمُونَ. So then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, but even to understand the parables, you have to have some learning. You can't go with a blank mind. You can't go with a blank page. You have to have some learning, some reflection, some thinking, some level of understanding in order even to know the amsal, even to understand the parables. And that is very profound. So now, I'm going to go into one or two amsal. I'm going to go into the one that will, so that it makes it, okay, so there's one in Surah Hajj. Surah Hajj. I like this personally myself, because when I fly in a plane, the idea of falling down from the plane into the ground, or somewhere between the ground, it's horrifying to me. It's really horrifying to me that falling down without a parachute. So it is something that I personally enjoy, this particular muscle. Okay, in Surah Hajj, it says, حُنَفَاءَ لِلَّهِ غَيْرَ مُشْرِكِينَ بِهِ وَمَنْ يُشْرِكْ بِاللَّهِ فَكَأَنَّمَا خَرَّ مِنَ السَّمَاءِ فَتَخْطَفُهُ الطَّيْرُ أَوْ تَحْوِي بِهِ الرِّيحُ فِي مَكَانٍ سَحِيقٍ. So now Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, he's talking about faith. This is about tawheed. This is about understanding La ilaha illallah. This is understanding that what La ilaha illallah gives us in terms of refuge, a place of safety, a place of refuge for us. So he said, being upright in faith, not associating anything with him. Whosoever associates anything with Allah, it is as though he has fallen from the heaven. So now the muscle, as though he has fallen from the heaven. And a bird, a vulture, has grabbed him, has snatched him as he is falling, and thrown, and the tafsir says, and thrown him very far. Or the wind has carried him far, far away, into a far off place. So now you find that, you see, Mir Ahmad Ali in his note, he says, he explains this. He says, one who falls from the worship of one true Allah is like a man who falls from the heavens into the laps of false gods. So now everything else, when someone doesn't worship Allah, he worships everything else. So he worships money, he worships power, he worships fame, he worships himself, he worships his soul, he worships everything but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. because his desires, his inner desires, his nafs ammara take him this way and that way. So he is all the time in pursuit of something or the other. But that is not Allah, other than Allah. So he is worshipping other than the Allah. And he says, but a person like him is ripped open in the midair by the birds of prey. So the vultures grab him. So you find our desires are vultures, like vultures. They break us into pieces. They destroy us. They really destroy us because they are taking us this way and that way. And we do not even get the satisfaction of fulfilling our desires because our desires are endless and we will never be able to fulfill our desires. So we find that that is an example of, how our nafs ammara is taking us all over. And then there is a fierce blast of wind, and the wrath of Allah, the anger of Allah snatches him and throws him into the hell of those who rebel against Allah. So he's thrown into hell with all those people who rebel against Allah and defy Allah. And then once he's there, he cannot come out of it because he has now gone into a place where he has left the safety, the place of safety. So Agapoya says that a man who does not submit to any authority other than Allah is the one who is truly, in following Tawheed. The one who doesn't is like a deviator who can accept any authority, and then he will be ripped into pieces, torn into pieces by his desires. He'll be ripped from inside. He will never be happy about these desires because it will not give him satisfaction. Because only worship of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives ala bi dhikrillahi tatma'in al-qulub. That is the only thing that will give you tatma'in al-qulub. So you see, that is the very clear indication. Okay, so there's one other example that I want to talk about, which is a little bit perhaps more, kind of down to earth. And that is the parable of a fly. So now in Surah, we have an ayah in the Holy Quran that tells us that this is Surah Ankabut. Ya ayyuhan nas, duriba masalul fastami'u lahu, inna alladhina tad'una min dunillahi lan yakhluqu ذبابة ولو اجتمعوا له وإن يسلبهم ذباب شيئا لا يستنقذوه منه ضعف الطالب والمطلوب. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying that He is setting forth a parable of a fly. That, He said, listen to it. The translation says, "O people, a parable is set forth. Therefore, listen to it. Surely those whom you call upon besides Allah cannot create even a fly." So, a fly, when you look at a fly, if you've done biology, and, you look at the fly, see the body of the fly, the body of the machar, the mosquito, and we studied all this in diagrams. He said, if you, they cannot even create a fly, although they should all gather together. If the whole of humanity were to get together, they cannot create even a fly. Okay? Cannot even create a fly. We may create a machine. We may create a robot. We may create a drone, but it will not be a fly. It will not have life. It will not do things that it wants to do. It will not have volition. It will not have the kind of volition that a fly has. And then, then he gives an example that should the fly snatch away something from them? Should the fly take away? So when you are eating, the fly comes to the food and takes a bit of the food. You cannot take it back from the fly. You cannot take it back from them. So both the people who are supplicating to the idols, they are just worshipping the fly. Just like, when you are supplicating to the idols, then you are really, really like, you are calling on things that, or Allah, on entities that cannot help you at all. So, now the context, the historical context that is given in the tafsir of this particular ayah is that the people in the idol worshippers in Mecca used to, have idols. So in order to show their love for the idols, they would take honey, and they would put honey on the idols, and they would put perfume on the idols. You put perfume, you put honey, and they would put lots and lots of perfume and honey on the idols, and then they would close the temple doors. And then the flies would come who are around there and eat all of that. And so when they opened the temple next day, they would fall into, kind of satisfaction. Oh, our idols have eaten our sacrifice. They've eaten all this honey. And so this is, that Allah is saying, the weak are the invoker and the invoked. Both the people who are invoking these idols are weak, and the people and the idols themselves are weak. So you find that, generally speaking, you find that this way in which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has used Amsal in the Holy Quran is very important. And if you look at the index of the Holy Quran and look at parables in the Holy Quran, you'll see about 40 to 45 instances where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is talking about masal or amsal. So now, if you want to understand Quran, you don't necessarily have to go from first ayah all the way to the end of the ayah. You can look at the index and look at specific things that the index is telling us. So one day, you just decide that I want to read the Quran and study the Quran, and you should do this every day, at least for about 10, 20 minutes a day. But just say, I look at the index and say, today I want to look at the parables. I want to look at this subject. And then look at the ayah and think about the ayah. So you actually are able to study the book and understand the book thematically. And of course, there are some books now which are available, which is thematical interpretation or tafsir of the Holy Quran. That's available as well. So you have specific thematic. I know Ahl Sunnah have actually published a very detailed book on the themes. But of course, they use their own sources. But that's available. Yeah. So, they are available. So you can think about them. We don't have to accept everything that you see in the books, but in not our books, other books. But you can think about them, because everything is important to think about it. But the way is, how are we utilizing the Quran in our lives? Now, if I stick to my old routine, that in the month of Ramadan, I'll go from my first sipara to the end sipara, that is not going to give me the kind of understanding that I need. If I want to go through tafsir, it is very laborious. I can assure you, go through the tafsir. When I was going to central London, I went through the entirety of Nahjul Balagha, every sermon of Imam Ali alayhi salam, and every footnote that he gave. The books gave about Imam Ali alayhi salam's sermons. And I finished it, 3 volumes, very small, but it was very small font, but very good. So now, but it took me 2 years, half an hour, 1 hour in the train and coming back. It took me a huge time to finish, but I did it religiously and I wanted to do it. So now, even to say that I want to look at the tafasir, even any of the tafasir, Mir Ahmad Ali or others. So it is laborious. So you can try to do that. But the better way, in my own opinion, is look at the index, take a subject, look at the ayah, look at the tafsir by the various tafasir about that particular ayah, and try to understand what that ayah is trying to tell us. And then, having understood, how can I apply this in my life? In that way, I think we have a very clear guidance, a very clear of understanding the Holy Quran all the way from reading to implementation. And now with that I'll end. Thank you very much for listening. Sallu ala Nabi.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for that talk. Really enlightening. How would you then suggest that one look into particular surahs or ayahs or words
Yeah. So I think definitely there are tools available. So for those who are doing serious tafsir, a reflection on the Holy Quran, it is very important that they get a dictionary of the Holy Quran as well. So, because you really want to know what that word etymologically is actually there and how it started, what it means, and what are the various possible meanings of this. So now for example, we may have, say, about 4 or 5 tafsir that are available in English, right? But when you want to do it as a way of understanding the ayah, as a way of understanding the ayah in Arabic, then I think we need to develop at least some understanding of the words, the Quranic words. So there are Quranic words that are used over and over again, and there are phrases that are used. So we can look at that, but also use a Quranic dictionary. So Quranic dictionary, I would say, is a very important tool to use. And also you will find that as you start thinking about the words, the way they have been translated, how did Pickthall translate it, how did Shakir translate it, you'll start seeing variations. You'll start seeing some things that you can't agree with, things that you feel is not quite expressing. So you look at the dictionary as well of Quran, this Quranic dictionary that's available, which looks at the root of every word, every Quranic word. And and there are other books. So, Fahmid Quran ba Quran. There is also a course. Yeah, there's a course which is being done. So, there are books which are available. So, you're trying to understand Quran through Quran. And there is a book both in English and Farsi, which is explaining in Arabic, that is explaining how you'd go about. So, that is a good way of getting to grips. And there are also some online courses as well. But, you have to spend some time. You have to take some time to understand, because it cannot be a superficial study. It really must be a lifelong kind of objective, that when I finally leave this world, I would have been able to tell my Allah that I tried my best to understand this Kitab Allah and understand and stick to Ahlul Bayt. So both. So this is what we should be thinking. So that is one, this would be my approach. But of course there are other approaches. And now we have quite a lot of shuyukh who are doing tafsir as well. They are using other tafsirs. So for mudarrises, there are many. So you can, it's a question of access. So if you knew Farsi, you'll be able to access some of the literature. If you knew Arabic, you'll be able to access some of the literature, right? But never mind if you can be reading Quran using the techniques that we have been talking about. Look at the words, look at the translation, look at the dictionary, look at what others have said. We start developing familiarity with words that we don't need to explain, to think about anyway, because now we know the words. Of course, we know certain levels of the words, and we can then know the context.
What I was going to sort of angle towards is on the website, this particular website, that any novice can go. For example, if there is reciting the Quran, and you want a particular word that interests you, so you can put that word, that was Ahbad. You know Ahbad?
Habad.
Yeah. It clears all your
Yeah.
good deeds by just one single action. So you put that word in, and the website will give you 17 different questions where Ahbad.
Exactly. So now where it has been used, yes, that's very important. Where it has been used. So you now see the context in which, yeah, perfect, perfect, yeah. So now you can know the different context in which the word has been used. So that is because we know. So that is one very important point, because Aga, you made a very important point, that if I can see the word being used in different contexts, in different ayats, and if I can look at all the ayats where this word has been used, I start developing an understanding of the way in which that word linguistically is being used, and then I understand the meaning. Absolutely.
Yes, I want to ask my two questions there are there. First one is
ઓકે, તમારો બીજો સવાલ જરાક વધારે અઘરો છે પહેલા સવાલ કરતાં, અને પહેલા સવાલ જરાક સરળ છે, આસાન છે જવાબ આપું. કારણ કે હવે વાત શું છે કે હવે આપણે આ દેશમાં રહ્યા છીએ જ્યાં અંગ્રેજી આપણી ભાષા, કામની ભાષા છે, આપણી ભણવાની ભાષા છે, યુનિવર્સિટીમાં પણ એ જ ભાષા છે, બધે ઠેકાની આપણે હવે એટલા કેળવાયા છે આ ભાષા વાપરવા માટે કે જે વસ્તુઓ આપણે જે અઘરા સભ્યો છે કે વિષય છે એને આપણને જોતા કે એના ઉપર આપણે વિચાર કરતા હોય તો આપણને છે ને જરાક વધારે અઘરું લાગે છે ગુજરાતી. જેથી હું બોલું છું મને વધારે અઘરું લાગે છે ગુજરાતી બોલવું ઇંગ્લિશ કરતાં, પણ હું ગુજરાતી ઓ લેવલ્સ કર્યો છું અને એટલે મને હજી યાદ છે, હું ભૂલી નથી ગયો, હજી મને થોડું યાદ છે. હવે આ વાત છે કે હવે આપણે કેમ ગુજરાતીમાં હું કેમ ન કર્યો, કારણ કે આ જે વિષય એવો હતો કે જેમાં બધાને ખુલાસો પાડવા માટે મને ઘણા અંગ્રેજીના શબ્દો વાપરવા પડ્યા હોત. તો એના માટે હું વિચાર કર્યો કે હવે ગુજરાતીમાં જો સિમ્પલ ચીજ હોય, એવી સિમ્પલ ચીજ જેવી રીતે ફોર એક્ઝામ્પલ આપણે અખલાકિયાતની વાત કરીએ છીએ આની, તો આપણે કરી શકીએ છીએ. બાકી જ્યાં આ જે ટેકનિકલ સબ્જેક્ટ્સ હોય તો એમાં જરાક વધારે. હવે ઓલો ક્વેશ્ચન છે ને એના ઘણા અભિપ્રાયો છે અને આપણને ખબર છે, તો એ મને ધારવા પ્રમાણે બોલવાની પણ જરૂર નથી કે આ ક્ષણામાં છે, કારણ કે આપણે ઇન્ટરનેટમાં છે હમણાં, તો આપણે એ બોલવાની જરૂર નથી. આપણને એના અભિપ્રાયો ઘણા છે. ઓકે, અને આપણને પોતાનો એક જાતનો શું કે અકીદો છે. બસ વધારે શું બોલું, આસાન. Thank you. شكرا أحسنت.
محمد وآل محمد صلوات. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. ياسين والقرآن الحكيم إنك لمن المرسلين على صراط مستقيم. تنزيل العزيز الرحيم لتنذر قوما ما أنذر آباؤهم فهم غافلون. لقد حق القول على أكثرهم فهم لا يؤمنون. إنا جعلنا في أعناقهم أغلالا فهي إلى الأذقان فهم مقمحون. وجعلنا من بين أيديهم سدا ومن خلفهم سدا فأغشيناهم فهم لا يبصرون. وسواء عليهم أنذرتهم لم تنذرهم لا يؤمنون. إنما تنذر من اتبع الذكر وخشي الرحمن بالغيب فبشر مغفرة وأجر كريم. إنا نحن نحيي الموتى ونكتب ما قدموا وآثارهم وكل شيء أحصيناه في إمام مبين. واضرب لهم مثلا أصحاب القرية إذ جاءها المرسلون إذ أرسلنا إليهم اثنين فكذبوهما فعززنا بالثالث فقالوا إنا إليكم مرسلون. قالوا ما أنتم إلا بشر مثلنا وما أنزل الرحمن من شيء أنتم إلا تكذبون. قالوا ربنا يعلم إنا إليكم لمرسلون وما علينا إلا البلاغ المبين. قالوا إنا تطيرنا بكم لئن لم تنتهوا لنرجمنكم وليمسنكم منا عذاب أليم. قالوا طائركم معكم أئن ذكرتم بل أنتم قوم مسرفون. وجاء من أقصى المدينة رجل يسعى قال يا قوم اتبعوا المرسلين اتبعوا من لا يسألكم أجرا وهم مهتدون. وما لي لا أعبد الذي فطرني وإليه ترجعون أتخذ من دونه آلهة إن يردني الرحمن بضر لا تغني عني شفاعتهم شيئا ولا ينقذون إني إذا لفي ضلال مبين إني آمنت بربكم فاسمعون قيل ادخل الجنة قال يا ليت قومي يعلمون بما غفر لي ربي وجعلني من المكرمين وما أنزلنا على قومه من بعده من جند من السماء وما كنا منزلين إن كانت إلا صيحة واحدة فإذا هم خامدون يا حسرة على العباد ما يأتيهم من رسول إلا كانوا به يستهزئون ألم يروا كم أهلكنا قبلهم من القرون أنهم إليهم لا يرجعون وإن كل لما جميع لدينا محضرون وآية لهم الأرض الميتة أحييناها وأخرجنا منها حبا فمنه يأكلون وجعلنا فيها جنات من نخيل وأعناب وفجرنا فيها من العيون ليأكلوا من ثمره وما عملت أيديهم أفلا يشكرون سبحان الذي خلق الأزواج كلها مما تنبت الأرض من أنفسهم ومما لا يعلمون وآية لهم الليل نسلك منه النهار فإذا هم مظلمون والشمس تجري لمستقر لها ذلك تقدير العزيز العليم والقمر قدرناه منازل حتى عاد كالأرجون القديم لا الشمس ينبغي لها أن تدرك القمر ولا الليل سابق النهار وكل في فلك يسبحون وآية لهم أنا حملنا ذرية في الفلك المشحون وخلقنا لهم من مثله ما يركبون وإن نشأ نغرقهم فلا صريخ لهم ولا هم ينقذون إلا رحمة منا متاعا إلى حين وإذا قيل لهم اتقوا ما بين أيديكم وما خلفكم لعلكم ترحمون وما تأتيهم من آية من آيات ربهم إلا كانوا عنها مؤرضين وإذا قيل لهم أنفقوا مما رزقكم الله قال الذين كفروا للذين آمنوا أنطعم من لو يشاء الله أطعمه إن أنتم إلا في ضلال مبين ويقولون متى هذا الوعد إن كنتم صادقين ما ينظرون إلا صيحة واحدة تأخذهم وهم يخصمون فلا يستطيعون توصية ولا إلى أهلهم يرجعون ونفخ في الصور فإذا هم من الأجداث إلى ربهم ينسلون قالوا يا ويلنا من بعثنا من مرقدنا هذا ما وعد الرحمن وصدق المرسلون إن كانت إلا صيحة واحدة فإذا هم جميع لدينا محضرون فاليوم لا تظلم نفس شيئا ولا تجزون إلا ما كنتم تعملون إن أصحاب الجنة اليوم في شغل فاكهون هم وأزواجهم في ظلال على الأرائك متكئون لهم فيها فاكهة ولهم ما يدعون سلام قولا من رب رحيم وامتازوا اليوم أيها المجرمون ألم أعهد إليكم يا بني آدم أن لا تعبدوا الشيطان إنه لكم عدو مبين وأن اعبدوني هذا صراط مستقيم ولقد أضل منكم جبلا كثيرا أفلم تكونوا تعقلون هذه جهنم التي كنتم توعدون اصلوها اليوم بما كنتم تكفرون اليوم نختم على أفواههم وتكلمنا أيديهم وتشهد أرجلهم بما كانوا يكسبون ولو نشاء لطمسنا على أعينهم فاستبقوا الصراط فأنى يبصرون ولو نشاء لمسخناهم على مكانتهم فما استطاعوا مضيا ولا يرجعون ومن نعمر نكس في الخلق أفلا يعقلون وما علمناه الشعر وما ينبغي له إن هو إلا ذكر وقرآن مبين لينذر من كان حيا ويحق القول على الكافرين أولم يروا أنا خلقنا لهم مما عملت أيدينا أنعاما فهم لا مالكون وذللناها لهم فمنها ركوبهم ومنها يأكلون ولهم فيها منافع ومشارب أفلا يشكرون واتخذوا من دون الله آلهة لعلهم ينصرون لا يستطيعون نصرهم وهم لهم جند محضرون فلا يحزنك قولهم إنا نعلم ما يسرون وما يعلنون أولم يرى الإنسان أنا خلقناه من نطفة فإذا هو خصيم مبين وضرب لنا مثلا ونسي خلقه قال من يحيي العظام وهي رميم قل يحيي الذي أنشأها أول مرة وهو بكل خلق عليم الذي جعل لكم من الشجر الأخضر نارا فإذا أنتم منه توقدون أوليس الذي خلق السماوات والأرض بقادر على أن يخلق مثلهم بلى وهو الخلاق العليم إنما أمره إذا أراد شيئا أن يقول له كن فيكون فسبحان الذي بيده ملكوت كل شيء وإليه ترجعون صدق الله العلي العظيم. Please recite Surah Fatiha for Risale Sawab of Marhum Jiwa Hasham, Marhuma Fatima Jiwa Hasham, Marhum Abdul Rasul Jiwa Hasham, Marhuma Shirin Abdul Rasul Hasham, Marhum Muhammad Hussain Jiwa Hasham, Marhuma Fatma Bai Muhammad Hussain Hasham, Marhuma Jena Bai Hussain Jan Muhammad, Marhum Hussain Jan Muhammad, Marhuma Khatija Jiwa Hasham, Marhuma Amina Jiwa Hasham, first Barsi, Marhuma Husna Banu Jiwa Hasham, Marhuma Rukia Bai Sachu, Marhum Abdul Sachu, Marhum Muhammad Abdul Sachu, Marhuma Shamim Muhammad Hussain Hasham, Marhuma Masuma Abdul Rasul Hasham, Marhuma Misriya Sachu, Marhuma Nasim Banu Taki, Marhum Mohsin Taki, Marhuma Nasim Banu Taki, Marhum Mohsin Taki, Marhuma Marzia Kazim Abdul Rasul Hasham, Marhum Anwar Ali Ali Dina, all Marhumin of Muhammad Ali Rashid Ali Dina family, all Marhumin of Muhammad Ali Kanji family, and Kul Marhumin. Suratul Mubarak al-Fatiha. Inshallah. Tawajjuh ziyarat. Assalamu alaikum ya Rasulullah, assalamu alaikum ya Amir al-Mu'mineen, assalamu alaikum ya Fatimah al-Zahra, Sayyidat Nisa al-Alameen, assalamu alaikum ya Hasan al-Mushtaba, assalamu alaikum ya Hussein al-Shaheed bi Karbala, assalamu alaikum ya Ali ibn al-Hussein, Zainul Abidin, assalamu alaikum ya Muhammad ibn Ali al-Baqir al-Min Nabiyyin, assalamu alaikum ya Jafar ibn Muhammad al-Sadiq, assalamu alaikum ya Musa ibn Jafar al-Kadhim, assalamu alaikum Ali ibn Musa Yurza, assalamu alaikum ya Muhammad ibn Ali al-Taqi al-Jawad, assalamu alaikum ya Ali ibn Muhammad al-Hadi al-Naqi, assalamu alaikum ya Hasan ibn Ali al-Zaki al-Askari, assalamu alaikum ya Hujjatullah ibn al-Hasan ya Sabri Yasir al-Zaman, assalamu alaikum ya Kabat al-Iman, assalamu alaikum ya Sharik al-Quran, عجل الله فرجه وسهل الله تعالى مخرجك وزورك ورحمة الله وبركاته. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اللهم كن لوليك الحجة ابن الحسن صلواتك عليه وعلى آبائه في هذه الساعة وفي كل ساعة وليا وحافظا وقائدا وناصرا ودليلا وعينا حتى تسكنه أرزك توعا وتمتعه فيها طويلا برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين.